Hi, everybody. It's Michelle Starr once again. This is my last in my series of Mysti-Stories about life on the mystic path. And this episode is, uh, I'm hoping, will give you hope, or anyone who's watching that has lost a loved one. I'm hoping that will give you hope and comfort. And there's something I'll recommend at the end of this, but um, the story is about my sister and my twin brother. And what I'm going to do is read you this story because I had it published in Harness Magazine. It's an online magazine published by a woman and four women to give them a voice without censure. Fancy that, right? In this day and age. So I'm just going to read it here, and I hope you enjoy it. The title is Wings Aloft, Reminders to Look Up. Driving along my friend Jean's winding quarter-mile stretch of driveway that lines her several hundred-acre horse farm, I admire the carefully spaced trees like they are guardian pillars lining the drive. The farm is picturesque with white fences, a temperature-controlled barn, beautifully landscaped gardens, and a gazebo next to a lovely pond that sits between the driveway and the house. She raises show horses. Jean and I became friends after we grew into adulthood during the 50s and 60s in a small country town in Northeast Ohio. She made me laugh as she rolled her eyes while describing how the geese loved that pond and would arrive in large numbers to enjoy a spring swim and lunch on her luxurious carpet of grass. On occasion, I myself saw them arrive, filling the sky with wing-to-wing span, the pond with loose feathers, and all around Jean's beautiful lawn were little green droppings. She grinned tongue-in-cheek as she explained how there was nowhere around the pond that she could walk without stepping in goose scat. She got wise to them, though. When they started to settle in like squatters, she would shoot her .22 rifle into the air to cut short their visit. It worked. My sister and I were witnesses. My sister's home is set in a housing development just inside the edge of town, near but separated by a wooded section from Jean's horse farm. Often at the end of a visit with my big sis, we would talk next to my car in her driveway as I prepared to go back to the city. That was when we would see an ocean of geese overhead coming from the direction of Jean's horse farm. We knew Jean had fired her rifle to chase the critters away from her pond and property. They honked loudly as they flew over our heads as though they were having a huge goose party. My sister and I laughed at the comedy of it all, but not for long. Soon, death would come like a thief in the night and rob me of my sister, stealing our shared laughter and her warmth and protection. In the summer of 2008, my sister was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It was around the time of her 65th birthday, and she made the decision to take the chemo route. My home at the outskirts of Cleveland was 33 miles away from her, but since I taught classes in her direction, I would stop to see her, or at least I tried. The chemo took its toll on her, and often when I called ahead for a visit, her husband would inform me she was sleeping. I did not really think anything of it at first. I would just try again another time. Then a month went by, then two, and then three. Living a busy entrepreneurial life, I felt a slight sense of relief sometimes when I could simply continue unencumbered with my scheduled work. Then the day came when our family received a call from my sister's husband notifying us that she was in the hospital and in her final days. Life seeped from her body that was ravaged by cancer and chemo. We were allowed to visit her at the hospital. My only other sibling, my twin brother, and I went together. When we arrived at her room, she wailed and burst into tears at the sight of us. We wondered what in the world had happened to her since we saw her last. She had peach fuzz where there used to be a thick cap of soft curls, and her eyes were sunken in dark circles. Guilt set in as I wished I had tried harder to visit her at home before the disease had leached so much of her life. My brother and I were shocked by the changes. Her reaction was an indication she had missed us, too. At this point, the doctors had done all they could, so they sent her home to make her transition. Hospice came to give additional care for what would be the last 3 weeks of her life. Now we were allowed to sit with her. I went as often as I could, weaving visits in between classes. She was unable to speak, and most of the time she dozed, but my brother-in-law said it was good to talk to her because she could still hear us. During one visit, I was sitting with my sister while she was totally still and seemed to be sleeping. I remembered being told even though she appeared near unconscious, she could hear us. I needed to leave for a class and said, "Vicky, I need to go out for a little while, but I will be back soon. I love you." It turned out her last and most precious words I would ever hear her speak were a weak, "I love you too." She passed one night the week before Christmas, a deeply agonizing loss. Unable to endure the anguish, I went outside to be alone and walked down the street in snow and cold. It was my turn to wail, and I sobbed in disbelief, stricken with gut-wrenching grief, a stark contrast to the colorful sparkles of Christmas lights still twinkling at some of the homes along the street. 2 days after the funeral, I went to the cemetery and stood by my sister's grave. She was the first person to pass from our immediate family. The heartache and sorrow I felt were heavy, almost debilitating. I looked over the beautiful mass of flowers from her memorial service that covered her mounded gravesite, wrapped with maroon ribbons bearing gold lettering, mother, grandmother, daughter, sister, wife, all descriptions of her stations in life. Over the years, Vicky generously gave warm love and protection, keeping a watchful eye over me, her younger sister, like a guardian angel. She was the glue that held our family together, keeping us connected through gatherings, especially at holiday times. Now she was gone. Christmas was coming within days. It would be darkly subdued. Standing in the snowy cold alone, looking down on her grave, I was frozen in grief at the loss of my beloved big sis. I thought about the finality of death. There was no practice to prepare for it, no way to reverse it. Then I heard a raucous cacophony overhead. The geese had arrived. They honked en masse, just like they did when we stood at my sister's driveway and laughed when they had been shooed away from Jean's pond. One last party, a celebration, but how could this be at such a grievous time? Their arrival caused me to look upwards towards the heavens. They were flying low as though in salute to my sister. And then I saw her. My sister's smiling face filled the expanse of the sky, and I could feel her presence was everywhere, everywhere. She conveyed to me without words that she is alive and well, happy and healthy, and not to worry. I stood in utter amazement on that wintry cold December day, warmed by the eternal divine love that filled and surrounded me. Even beyond her grave, she continued to watch over me, now from above, like the true guardian angel she is. I have had more goose encounters after that graveside experience, which served to remind me of the all pervasiveness of the love of God and infinite spirit of loved ones. Usually the geese show up in pairs, perhaps reflecting our sisterhood. I believe she winks at me this way and lets me know she is not gone. She's just partying up there, flying high with those raucous geese. Whether seen or unseen, guardian angels are there. Now, to continue this story, 11 years later, I got word that my twin brother had been admitted to the hospital. Though it was a serious condition, the doctors expected a positive outcome. My roommate and I went to visit my brother. After the visit was over, we were in the parking lot walking to the car. My friend exclaimed, "Look," and he pointed upwards towards the sky. I looked up. Once again, the mystical geese had made an appearance right on cue. There was a perfect V line of 9 geese quietly flying directly overhead. Hmm, no goose party this time. But another comforting, synchronous wink from our guardian angel and a reminder to look up. So my brother went back to the nursing home. He was a Vietnam vet. He had PTSD and just a myriad of health issues. And he was in a nursing home for rehabilitation with other Vietnam vets around him. And then I got the call from my sister-in-law. My twin brother was readmitted to the hospital from the nursing home. It was August, it was hot, and on August 13th, my sister-in-law called me. They thought he was pretty well gone. They took him to the hospital and I picked her up. She was 45 minutes away, but she didn't drive at night and she had given up. She wasn't even going to go see him, but we needed to go visit him and see him one more time. So I picked her up and we drove there where he lay lifeless. So the geese were right when they were flying silently overhead. And there were 9 of them. The 9 is a significant number because in numerology, that's the number of completion. So I knew when I saw the 9 geese, but I waited for it to play out. And wouldn't you know, when I drove on the highway to pick up my sister-in-law, I saw in the lane next to me a pickup truck with a license plate 9999. So not only were those 4 nines, but those add up numerologically to 36, which adds down to 9. So I knew as I was going to the hospital, he was gone. I picked up my sister-in-law and we said our goodbyes then. So The geese have been instrumental bringing hope. And I knew then that she was not gone from existence. She was just in a different dimension. So I wanted to mention that if you have interest in reading a book on life on the other side, there's a couple of books. One is called Saved by the Light by Dannion Brinkley. Dannion is Dannion, Brinkley. He actually died 4 times. He's still alive right now, and he's actually getting ready to make his final transition. Sorry, but he was struck by lightning twice, and then I don't know what the other occasions were. I have not read his books, but I have seen him live in online teachings. So um, the one time he died after being struck by lightning, he was gone for 28 minutes. So he's like a walking miracle. Now, what I want to add to that is in his books, he explains how he met with angels while he was in this other state. And they gave him like these black boxes that had information in them, prophecies. And many of these prophecies have already come to pass. So the book is called Saved by the Light. I'll put it in the description so you'll have it written down. He has another book. Um, and I'm sorry, I can't recall the title, but when you go to this one, you'll see his other book. And he has sold 23 million copies of Saved by the Light worldwide. So it's very uplifting, and you might be interested in getting his books. So with that, this is episode number 9. So this is a completion for me as I have given these episodes. And I'm going to try to put them all in a playlist so that they'll be listed in sequence and make it easier for people to see. So thank you so much for watching, for letting me share my stories live online. And if you want to contact me for any reason, any questions, if you want a tarot consultation or numerology, or join me live online for yoga. This is my Golden Jubilee, my 50th year of yoga practice, and also my 35th year of teaching. So I'd love to hear from you, how you feel about the stories, if you like them, or what you liked about them. So thank you again for letting me share here, and maybe we'll meet up on another plane. So enjoy your life, enjoy the mystery of life, and be kind to one another, love yourself, love others, love God. Namaste.